Michelle. Hi, there.
Hey.
Hi, Michelle.
How are you?
All right. And we're going to do this. Welcome to the
Okay.
first official. I think we have some people tuned in. Welcome to the first official, the inaugural launch for Fierce Women Fridays. Thanks for being our first guest.
Thank you so much for having me.
Well, hi, everybody. I can't see who's on. Michelle is going to help me because my I
Yep.
have some vision issues. So Michelle is going to check and see, and we're going to say hi and maybe take questions. We're going to see how this goes. We're going to start with the format, maybe half hour, and we're going to see how that goes. So we're going to listen to feedback, and we'll go from there. So
We are welcoming She's Motivated and Donate Time Back. Thank you so much for joining us.
right on. Thank you for joining, everybody. Thanks, Michelle. Well, listen, let's launch right in. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you perfectly. Can you hear me all right?
Yep. I'm outside, but if the lawnmower brigade starts, I might have to duck indoors. But it can
No
break out
problem.
at any second. It's crazy. But I'm crossing my fingers. We can get a little interview in here. So for everybody joining, I just want to give a quick backstory, origin story, so you know what this is. Okay. So we have Fierce Women Project, and now this is Fierce Women Fridays interview series. So just really briefly, my name's J.G. Bocella. My background, I'm an artist, recording artist and painter, visual artist, and a social justice advocate. And my music, art, and equality is my thing. And my background is in arts, education, and social justice. So about 7 years ago, I did a portrait of a friend, and it's, long story short, I did another portrait, and it turns out it did all these portraits of these awesome women leaders, and just thought, wow, why don't I do a whole series called Fierce Women Project, and so, a Fierce Women Portrait Series. And so basically what it is, and it's grown this past 7 years, and so it turned from a portrait series into this platform. So it's really a portrait series with a purpose, and it's Portraits of Possibility is our tagline, because the core question for Fierce Women Project is, what's possible? And it morphed into this platform, online and offline, to bring together strong women leaders from all over the world to share their stories. So they're sharing. We have a literal portrait, painting, digital portrait, and a metaphorical, figurative portrait of a person. So we got birds in the background too. So we're creating this platform so women leaders can share their stories to inspire and uplift and help young women and girls expand their sense of what's possible for their own futures, and also to engage men as allies around women's leadership and gender equity. And that came straight from the women leaders. When I asked them, what should I be doing as a man? And they said, go get the other men. Let's get more men involved in supporting women's leadership and gender equity. So that was my homework that the women leaders gave to me. So that's where we are now. And so it's really about leadership development and mentoring and giving back to the next generation of young women and girls. We have an amazing list of people signed up for Fierce Women Fridays already. We have the whole summer booked out every Friday already, and into September and October. So it's just super duper exciting. Also an exciting piece of this is, the fierce women in my life, my mother, my wife, my two sisters, have guided me throughout this process over the years. And I'm really happy and thrilled to announce that as I've handed over the ownership of Fierce Women Project. So Fierce Women LLC is now a 100% owned company, and its own majority ownership is my wife, Demetria, and my mother and my two sisters, who own the company outright now. And I'm essentially a volunteer now. So I'm moving into that role. And so that's really exciting. And that's where we are. Our core question, and I just want to get this all out for everybody so they know what this is. Our core question is, our signature Fierce Woman question for every woman in the series has been, what's your definition of a fierce woman? And we're going to get to that. Michelle is going to share her story. One last thing before I hand it over to Michelle is I want to take a moment and acknowledge this moment in time where we are. And first of all, I want to say that Fierce Women Project, myself, the owners now, my wife, my mother, my sisters, unequivocally support Black Lives Matter and equality and justice for all people. And so we're in this moment. So Fierce Women will always be, Fierce Women Project will always be unequivocally for civil rights and for rights for all people, gender equity, racial equity, unequivocally. And also the foregrounding of women of color in the series because of how the media does not do that. So we are going to foreground women of color in this series also. And then there was a question of, well, what do we do in these times? Should we even have this? Should we postpone the series? And the thought is, no. What we need to do is come out forcefully for justice. And if anything, now is the time to be role models for young women and girls about what it means to stand up for what you believe in. So I just want to say that in solidarity. Also, me as an individual, I just did it's a public post on Facebook yesterday, which is about listening to what's going on out there. It's really about white people and non-Black folks who want to be part of the solution right now, but don't necessarily have a roadmap, not sure exactly what they're supposed to do or how to do it if they're not an activist or other ways to engage. And so I did a thing on there called hashtag not on my watch, and it's talking about a way in to engage. That's up there. And so we continue to do advocacy work, and we do art and life work and mentoring and leadership. So let's do this. Let's launch it off. Thanks again, Mishala. I'm going to hand it over. So I guess, could you start by telling us who you are and how you got here and what, drove you to do the work that you're doing now? And then, what's your definition of a fierce woman?
Sure.
That's a lot. Any way you want to
answer all of those questions. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you so much, Jill Furman and Leah Davidson, who just joined, and all of you who've jumped on. Yes, hello. My name is Mishala Bolton, and I met with JG several months ago and was so inspired by his work. And he connected with me through a nonprofit that I began. And a little bit of background: I grew up in impoverished settings. My father was a drug addict, and there was domestic violence in the home, and my mother still suffers from mental illness. So we traveled a lot because they were professional ice skaters. There wasn't a lot of consistency, or, there was no home base. I missed a lot of school. We did the best that we could, but there were a lot of sleeping in cars and showering in truck stops, eating quick little gas station meals, that sort of thing. And it got to a point where when I was about 10, my grandparents on my mom's side did take me in and essentially adopt me. And at that point, my grandmother asked me, what do you want to do with your life? And she gave me all these opportunities starting around the age of 10 to get involved, and I really dove into the arts. And so what ended up happening is I was able to process trauma and to overcome the struggles that I had faced through pottery, art, dance, cheer, singing, all these different modalities. And I ended up struggling in school at first. There was bullying on my part and from others, and I didn't do well with tests. I struggled a lot with kind of being inspired in the educational setting. And it turned from that to a focus on the arts, and that kind of bled into education as well. And I ended up getting a double bachelor's in creative writing and human developmental psychology from Eckerd College. And I'm getting ready to finish up my first master's at University of Cumberland in clinical counseling, which I'm so excited about. And I'll go on to get a second master's from Harvard in creative writing, and then hopefully a PhD in expressive art therapies. And I'm going to say halfway through my master's program, my graduate program, I watched a documentary on PBS called Poor Kids, and it stood out to me in a way that nothing else had. And I realized I wanted to combine the experiences I had working with children and the creative expression that I had experienced along with my own personal struggles, and combine them and help youth in any way that I could. So I created a nonprofit called A Home for Art, and we provide art, music, drama, and literary services to homeless youth, foster youth in private homes, group home individuals, and then also in disadvantaged schools all throughout Florida. We are only about a year and a half old, so we're new, but we're so thankful that it's snowballed into what it has in Sarasota, Palmetto, Tampa, St. Petersburg. And in addition to that, I ended up publishing children's books. I own and operate the Berry Patch, and I publish my children's books there, and we're getting ready to release a game app that's focused on inspiring, educating, and motivating children of all ages. So we're really excited about that and to launch it. And I also, in my past, did do commercial modeling, voiceover acting. I taught pre-K. I worked as a Disney entertainer. I taught dance and gymnastics. And right now I am an expressive art, Reiki, meditation practitioner and intern therapist at Loving Life Today in Tampa. So I never say no to opportunities.
That's awesome.
And I'm just so looking forward to, what's next in the future. I'd love to have a production company and do more screenwriting that advocate for populations that I serve. So sky's the limit.
That's amazing. And what was it you said your grandmother told you something about opportunity?
Yeah, she always said never say no to an opportunity. And so it took me a while to get the courage to believe that I could.
Yeah.
And knowing, that I could say yes and take certain projects on. But yes, I live by that now. Never say no.
Can you talk a little bit more about the getting up the courage part of it?
Yeah, so in any project that I've started, I had a party company as well for children, and then of course with the children's books, even in education and the nonprofit, I personally experienced a lot of imposter syndrome because I, in the beginning, had no idea what I was doing and only had my own experiences and strengths to draw off of. And it was really for me about gaining as much knowledge and, I was self-taught as much as I could. But then when you step into the real world, that can only take you so far. And that's when confidence comes into play. And so it's really a fake it till you make it in each scenario, and just building the self-love and the self-confidence and realizing that I could accomplish what I set out to do.
And what do you think your love of learning that you shared, how do you think that factors into that whole process?
How do I think my love of learning factors into imposter syndrome?
No, just like your
or
growth
confidence?
and facing your fears and building up your confidence, trying new things, or maybe it doesn't tie in, but can you share anything about your love of learning?
Absolutely. I think it absolutely ties in more ways than one, because on one end of the spectrum, of course, education in itself builds confidence because we're growing knowledge, but education doesn't always have to be academic setting. For me, education also involves obtaining wisdom, and that can come from any source. That can come from a person you have a conversation with on the street, a book that you read, introspection, any type of self-growth or self-awareness that comes into play. I think that can be gleaned from anywhere.
Mm-hmm. Great, thank you. And so what's your definition of a fierce woman, Michelle? I know
my definition, yes,
you wrote it down, I know.
Is a woman who goes after exactly what she needs and wants. That is my definition of a fierce woman. Again, it takes, courage to thrive, not just survive. It takes courage to discover what your passions are and decide to follow those. And in my opinion, a lot of times today we possibly get trapped in these mindsets of having to conform, or we get stuck in positions where we feel trapped and we feel like there's no way out, but we're not living to our full purpose. I hear a lot of people say that they're looking for that meaning and that purpose, and I believe that those fierce women are the ones who are brave enough to set aside others' opinions and set aside ideas of where we should be at certain ages, at certain times, and that just go for it full force with drive, ambition, and passion.
That's beautiful. Hey, how do you think men can most effectively support women going after their dreams and passions? Or what do you want from men on a professional level and all sort of spheres of society? Like, what's your word to men who want to support women's leadership and gender equity?
I can't speak for all women, of course, but for me personally, it's being heard.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to see men not just listening, but hearing what women say, standing behind that with respect and compassion, love and support, and moving forward in a unified front, as opposed to, you know, an idea of separation. It's an idea of working together.
That's great. And can you expand on the support part at all? Like, put your money where your mouth is, like going from lip service to actual putting it into action. How can men step up and put things into action around that support?
Absolutely. Everyone is able to help in a different way. That might be financially, that might be through advocating, through giving a voice to women's projects that men are passionate about. That might be through a simple act of taking the time to spend with your wife, your daughter, to impress upon them wisdom or to allow them to share ideas. So there are so many different ways. Again, that's that unified front where we can grow together.
I love that. Unified front where we can grow together. That's powerful. Very powerful. Thank you so much, Michelle. So can you do me a favor? Can we check in? I can't read the comments.
Yes, I was just thinking that.
I want to engage folks. I don't know if anyone's
absolutely. So let's see. We have Maya Moore gave hand claps. Thank you so much.
Maya's in the series. Maya's going to be on. She's going to be
on. Oh, awesome.
Yeah, her portrait's being painted right now by one of our Fierce Women artists. Hi, Maya. Beautiful. Thank you so much for being a part of Fierce Women Project. We're going to interview Maya. I forget the date. It's on our calendar. It might be last one of July. I'll have to look it up, but we'll post it. So looking forward to the interview with Maya.
Looking forward to listening in.
Yeah. And anybody else posting or saying anything?
Yes. Leah Davidson is giving lots of love. Thank you for the love.
She is part of the project. She's been amazing. She's supporting this project big time.
Wonderful. So, and Demetria Style says, awesome.
That's my wife.
Hi.
Demetria is the majority owner of Fierce Women Project. So give it up.
Beautiful.
Okay. So,
cheers for you. And Maya has asked a question. She said, during times like this, how are you staying positive and encouraged? That's a great question. So we could probably both answer this one. So for me personally, I'm staying positive and encouraged by living a life that is positive and inspires me. So I'm waking up daily with a plan for what I'd like to do, and I'm doing what I love. And so it's easy, even though I'm here at home, to stay in this state of positivity and to keep motivated and moving forward because my day is filled with things that I'm passionate about and that I've chosen to have the courage to follow.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Good question.
That's inspiring. Yeah, and since you invited me to pipe in, I guess I'll just say that I wasn't going to, but you said it's just focusing on what matters most, you know, in terms of friends and family, loved ones, what our values are, making sure I'm aligned with what is my purpose on this earth and what am I supposed to be doing, what is my role. And what am I doing today? Is that connected to my role? And then me personally, art and nature are the things that keep my sanity. You know, I need personally art and nature in my life to restore my soul and that human connection and art and nature. So that's what I'm doing. That's actually a good segue. We're going to try to, I don't know, what's our time?
We have about 10 minutes left.
Oh, great. Oh, great. So I want to just share with folks, and this is going to be hopefully rebroadcast. This is my first time. I'm still learning about the Instagram ins and outs. But I want to tell folks that with Fierce Women Project, it's like the first step is a discovery process where young women and girls are discovering all of these awesome women like Mishala and Jill and everybody who's going to be on. Like, so it's discovery process. And then the second step, so the women are sharing their stories, and the young women and girls hopefully are discovering these women, who they are, what they do, but also hopefully, again, an expanded sense of what's possible for their own futures. So then the step 2 we have is we want to help young women and girls start to create a vision of their future self, or their quote unquote future self portrait. So it's like, with this expanded sense again of what's possible for their future. So working on their vision. So a couple years into the project, I had this idea about, well, you know how people use vision boards. Well, what if we could get the girls in the project like a vision book, which is like a workbook, like a vision board in a book. If you put it in your bag, it's a portable, it's a vision book. So I created the vision book, and I think Michelle has one there. There's the vision book. We did a couple versions. Thank you. She has it. I don't have it on me. But we also have one where my wife, Demetria, is featured on, it's a special edition version. I don't have it here. Where Demetria is featured on the cover, and she shares her own personal journey. So we have a couple editions of the vision book, but the idea is that it's a vision board in a book. And so that, and as we iterated on it to tweak it and get it to be as best as it could be. But the idea is that if we're helping young women and girls create a vision, we don't want to just make it a blank journal. We have a process, and it starts with getting in touch through the arts, a creative process, creative warm-up at the beginning, the first section, where it starts with exercises that are fun, that gets you in touch with what you love to do, what you're passionate about, what you're naturally good at that you might not even realize, but other people are like, oh, she's great at that. So what you love, what you're naturally good at, and then thirdly, what you value, getting in touch with what you value. So that's kind of the warm-up. And then we go into those 6 sections and break it down into who, what, when, where, why, and how. So, you know, your why is your big motivator. Like, why do I do this? What's my purpose? And why, you know, coming out of what I value. Like, I value my family. They're my why. My wife and daughter are my biggest why, you know, and social justice and equality for all people. That's a big why, you know, my purpose. And so then we break it down into what, who, what, when, where, why, and how. And so we go deep with all of those. And then not too long ago, I felt like I wanted something that was tangible, an object I could put on my nightstand and on my desk, and that it's a stress ball you could squeeze when you're stressed. And this is actually the Vision Cube, and it's pretty new. I'm excited. We only have 1,000 of these, and we don't even have them. Like, they're not on Amazon yet. Like the Vision books are on Amazon, but we have our first batch of these Vision Cubes, and I just love them so much. And I hold this thing all the time. But when I was a kid, I used to hold rocks in my hands. So I like to hold things like that. But anyway, I wanted to share this process. And I wanted to say that actually Michelle and I, starting first Monday in July, we are going to do Vision Book Mondays. We're going to co-host Vision Book Mondays every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to do an 8-week section. We're going to do cycles of 8 weeks. We're going to do one, see how it goes. And we're going to go through the vision book. And you don't have to even buy one. If you can just get a blank notebook, and we can show you how to do the process in a blank notebook. If you want to get the book, it's on Amazon or whatever, but you don't have to. But we're going to just do it and take folks through the process and go through each section, who, what, when, where, why. And the big vision for this is to get, you know, folks all over working on their visions together and sharing that process. So we're going to be doing that. I'll be posting to remind folks and then re-invite them. So anyway, that's the perfect segue to wind up now. And Michelle had shared with me one of her visions of one of her what's, which is this one particular vision that she has that involves this home. And I was wondering if you could share in great, because you had shared with me in such great detail. And that's the idea with creating a vision, is you want to have extreme detail so that you can manifest it, and you feel all the power and emotion behind your why and your passion. And then you couple that with the important thing, which is the how, right? Oh, this is coming on backwards. The how, which is the plan. You can't just have a vision and have no plan. So we want to help folks with the how. But can you please share your vision with us, Michelle?
Sure. So with a Home for Art, the nonprofit that I founded about a year and a half ago. I had a very distinct vision that kind of came to me, which tells me that it's already set in place. It wasn't something I had to imagine. It was something that was already there. And I am looking forward to manifesting it. But what I saw was a 2-story bright yellow house. And out front, there is a sign that is swinging. And it says in many different colors, written, by children, a home for art. And then our little logo is there. And it's in all these different bright colors. And when you walk into this space, there are wood floors, and to the left, there's this long, open room with windows all around, and there's children's artwork hanging on strings and clothespins. And that space is where I do expressive art therapy with children and teens and adults. And it's a place where there might be some mirrors for dance, and that's where we do our writing and our singing, our acting. Maybe there's some drums in the corner. So it's just all about those artistic modalities and being able to express ourselves creatively. When we go back to the front door, there's the little entryway. I've got my children's books there available for purchase. I'm hoping to create more children's books that advocate for children's mental health, so I'd love to have those there. A little waiting room with magazines for parents. And the little TV, and there's a restroom and an office. And then when you go upstairs, there are rooms for individual therapy, which is where I would do my counseling services. So, and then there's also a room upstairs for my meditation, my Reiki practice. So I just really want to have this space that's all about healing holistically, and it's bright, and it's full of love and empathy, and I'm so excited for that to happen someday.
Awesome. And, if you're willing, we can, when we start Vision Book Mondays in July, we can go through, that's a perfect what to use to go deep with the process in the book in the cube, like the process of, okay, well, if that's your vision, that's your what, then what's the how, what's the plan for that? And then with the who, it's like, well, who are the people maybe who have already done something similar from whom you could learn? How did they do it? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So that's one who. The other who is who in your life currently supports your dream or might support that dream. And so we go deep with the who. So anyway, that would be a perfect thing to do with the Vision Book Mondays. So listen, one last thing before we finish the interview, I just wonder if you could share, because it's so touching, in terms of your experience with working with foster children and what impact folks who care can have on the life of a foster child.
Sure. And hi, Jill. I see you waving, and thank you, Maya, for your statement. So for me personally, because my grandmother was that one person who asked, what is it that you want to do? And she really inspired me and gave me the opportunities, not just financially, but mentally and spiritually as well. So for me, it's about giving that same gift. That's how it impacts me, is to be able to work with these children and adolescents one-on-one or in group settings where I can sit down and look them in the eyes and connect with them and say the same thing my grandmother said to me, which is, show me your talents and what is it that you want to do with your life. Let's explore that. Let's explore your creativity, your ideas, and stuff along those lines. So for me to be able to, I wouldn't even say it's for me, but to be able to hopefully make that kind of an impact, just to be there, to show compassion and to have a listening ear is really important.
Wow, that's such a powerful testimony. First, thank you so much, Michelle, for sharing your experience.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on today. I really appreciate it, and I love what you're doing. It is powerful work, and I can't wait to see how it continues to grow.
Well, thank you so much. And while we're saying goodbye, I just want to say thanks everybody who came on, and stay tuned. From here on out, every Friday is Fierce Woman Friday, 12 p.m. We're going to have another amazing woman leader on every Friday. We're booked out through October almost, like halfway through. And for next Friday, Jill, who's been on Thank you, Jill, so much. Jill's awesome, an awesome woman leader. She's actually the producer for Hamilton. That's pretty amazing, right? And she probably gets sick of hearing that. I don't know, because she does other stuff besides Hamilton, and she's doing amazing work. She's a Tony Award-winning Broadway producer, and she's a woman who cares, a woman who leads. She's a leader who's going to share her story. And next Friday, right here on Instagram Live for Fierce Women Fridays, 12 p.m. Thank you, Jill, for doing that. And can't wait till the interview with Jill next Friday. And so stay tuned, folks. And the last thing I just want to say is we're launching this. So I'm going to just unabashedly ask you to share it. If you like it, so just please share with your friends. And we're at, as you can see, just at Fierce Women Project on Instagram. Everything's there. There's the link to our site. And as soon as you link to Fierce Women's site online, there's a link at the top of the page for the vision book. So everything you need, you can just come to Instagram. But if you would share, we would be tremendously grateful. So thank you, and bear with me while I try to figure out how to get off of this thing. I've never done it.
And Jill says she never gets tired of it.
Awesome. Oh, she does. That's great. Yeah, that's understandable. That's understandable. All right. Well, thank you again, Michelle.
Thank you so much.
We'll
and I look forward to seeing everyone when we co-host the Vision Book Mondays.
Vision Book Mondays, July. All right. Bye.
Bye.
Do I get off of this?